So, BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and with Women's History Month coming to a close, yes, I know I'm late, and me not sure when I'm even going to get this out, I wanted to talk about the fact that introverted people get way too much flack when it comes to dating pools, and even when it comes to characters in fiction. Something I've noticed when it comes to looking at love interest is that if a character is not super energetic or are more reserved and shy, people tend to label them as being heartless, cruel, shallow, empty, hollow, badly written, or people have no idea why that character is deserving of love. And if those characters make a mistake, the internet will be quick to jump on them like hard. I think we all have introverted and extroverted tendencies in real life, so we're going to look through certain characters in fiction because media is often used to reflect how both creators reflect on reality, and just because a person is more reserved doesn't mean that they hate people, doesn't mean that everyone's shy, or means that all of them are quiet, and it definitely doesn't mean that they are not deserving of love. So let's get started. Hey, so remember when Miraculous fans hated Kagami? Honestly, I think I have or know someone in my life who does hate her, and honestly, I never understood why. From the jump, people have called her heartless and mean to Marinette, when in reality, she's very straightforward, she's very blunt, and because of her lack of social skills, she prefers to be straight up honest with people. Her mother essentially treats her like a pet on a leash, but she actually has a desire to try to grow, learn, and change. Again, she's the one that gives Marinette the advice to try and be honest and don't hesitate when it comes to both of their feelings about Adrian. And even though she realizes that both of them are interested in the same person, she also tries to be both civil with Marinette and Adrian, and it's because they keep interacting that Kagami starts to see Marinette as a friend in season 3, which I know people don't exactly like, but Kagami's episodes were the best part of that season. The revelation she found out about Marinette's identity later on doesn't really bother me because it kind of shows that she had every opportunity to expose the secret, and yet she chose to understand and connect with Marinette first. Her dating Felix was a little bit weird to me since I feel like there was a better option for her. I will say, given how both of them came from abusive households, it kind of works, and I think it's really important for Asian characters to get love interests and their own story arcs. So I'm really glad she's grown past the introverted nature to actually be considered part of the friend group, and it's probably one of my favorite characters from Miraculous. Speaking of friend shows, finally an excuse to talk about Code Lyoko. Yumi! Now, I realized way too late that technically 4 out of the 6 Lyoko warriors, save for William and Odd, can be considered introverts, so think before I draft scripts. Okay, quick note. Jeremy and Aelita's relationship is interesting because some people have seen Jeremy over the years as a selfish jerk who pressures his friend to do what he says, and Aelita being seen as nothing more than a damsel scrappy. But I think what makes their relationship interesting is that post-Aelita virtualization, Jeremy's friendship nature broke thanks to Aelita, and he was able to make genuine friendships, and he fell in love with her, with both of them becoming more confident in themselves. Plus, Jeremy does have to grow out of being entitled and letting Aelita be her own person while coming to accept her interest in music. Talking about Urk and Yumi, though, okay. Love interest aside, I do admit I do like their dynamic, both of them having friendless backgrounds, with Urk being quiet and antisocial, and Yumi's friendless background and preferring to be by themselves, and as someone who respects that, but with him revealing his kinder side to his friends and her. But Yumi's situation is pretty tough on her own when you think about it. She lives off campus, her family immigrated from Japan to France, her only friends are 1 grade younger than her, people have been ignorant with her nationality, the Xana attacks have put her family at risk, and she's targeted for being the most mature of her group. Her brother's constantly trying to get involved with her life, having to constantly lie to her family goes against their culture, which she hates, and though she misses Lyoko, she admits that her life would be easier without it. There's also the fact people blame Yumi for stuff that weren't exactly her fault. Sure, the birthday stuff was extra, but Hiroki stealing her diary, Odd making her think Ulrich sold an embarrassing photo, and rejecting William's help. And I feel like everyone forgets that she always gets punished whenever she makes those big mistakes. Like, the girl got trapped in a digital sea with her ship stuck. Not trusting William to join the team cost them hard at the end of season 3. And if she had voted for William to join them in Lyoko in the final battle, it's possible Xana wouldn't have been used to corrupt him. Plus, I feel like people don't appreciate her best assets. She found someone in Ulrich who had the same hobbies and values. She was the big sister to Jeremy and Aelita. The only reason she wanted to hide her feelings was to focus on the mission. And she's the only Lyoko warrior that actually managed to get through William to break Xana's hold of him temporarily. Even Evolution added a few more layers to her. Because the show was in production around the 2011 earthquake, she tried to organize fundraisers in order to send money to victims in Japan. She feels sorry for William and tries to get him back in the team, even regretting how she acted back in season 4. And, well, 3 mostly. Yumi may be reserved, but she was still loyal to her friends and found someone she loved, and I think she deserves way more respect than some people in the Code Lyoko fandom give her credit for. So, Nico Minoru, abandoned issues and loyalty. Huh, 3 Asian girls and 2 goths back to back. Anyway, I'm getting really tired of the whole female character who gets upset at finding the main protagonist has been keeping their superpowers secret discourse. Because at this point, half the valid criticisms drown themselves in a violent sewage consuming all nuanced and noxious pits of negativity. Anyway, Nico did nothing wrong. Everyone was mad at her for being upset at Peter for keeping her out of the loop. And part of my problem with this discourse is that people only take one character's consideration into it and never consider the others. Because it turns out an orphan who lives in a foster home with abandonment issues despite being happily adopted is naturally going to feel pretty angry about being left in a dark situation that everyone she cares about is going to leave her behind. I swear, I feel like I'm the only person watching these shows and paid attention. Besides, she uses that to build a better bond with Harry, and we've seen that she's self-assured jokester, but her insecurities leave her an introvert who doesn't really have strong connections with anyone other than Peter. And that's because she's loyal to the people who are there for her. He saved her life in the show in episode 1, but the comics based on the show also confirmed that after their first day, she returned the favor by exposing a Nepo baby's leech of her friend and got them to turn on each other when they were about to bully him. Besides, they managed to have a solid talk about it a few episodes later, and she's loyal to him, solely accepting Harry into their friend group and gets over that. I know people debate whether or not her relationship with Peter is going to be romantic or platonic, since she is bi, but I think we need to respect the fact that this is how some introverts work, especially when it comes to writing them. Then we got to be accurate and the fact that they're not always going to feel comfortable with alienation. But writers who let them grow establish that people like her exist in the real world exist, but are trying to make those steps are also very important. So, keep Bella, kill Edward, kiss Alice. Moving on from talking about Asian people to white people, would it be controversial to say that the Twilight series would have been better if Alice was Bella's main love interest with Jacob as a triangle loser, while Edward was killed off in the first 2 to establish the stakes? Yeah, but wasn't Alice dating Jasper? Fair. Okay, let's see. Victoria and Lawrence murking a member of the Cullens as revenge for James would make them more of a solid threat. So, which one? Oh, the soldier who fought in the Civil War for the Confederate South? Perfect! Look, if I wanted to watch a story with a love interest that supported the Confederacy that was also a vampire, I could just watch The Vampire Diaries or True Blood instead. Or maybe I could just be based and rewatch My Babysitter's Vampire, actually watch First Kill, or put people onto Reginald the Vampire. Yes, I missed season 2, but I stayed awake between 10 o'clock and 11 p.m. to watch every episode of season 1, and that show was awesome. Jacob Batalon nailed it as a vampire. Damn it, we had 3 great vampire shows with fun characters, lesbians, and variety, and all of them got canceled. Oh, right, this is about Bella and Alice, isn't it? Based on the movies, I actually enjoyed Bella's character. She moved because she wanted to be with her dad. She's just overwhelmed by all the fact that her new classmates are actually pretty decent people. Doesn't have to be careful around her boyfriend's family. She gives it a chance with open arms, and when she suffers from depression after Edward leaves her, it's Alice that's the one that's there for her, tries to confront her, and honestly, I think it would have been pretty cool, especially compared to Edward being so controlling and manipulative, from stalking her to using her desire for sex against her. Yes, I know, I didn't want Black Vampire. Stephenie Meyer would never do something like that. But it could have been made for a cute couple between an introverted human and an extroverted vampire who found someone she could bring the best out of. Honestly, if I were Belle, I'd hate my community too. I don't know if it would be correct to frame Belle from Beauty and the Beast as an introvert, but what I can do is call out the people who call her a pick-me and act like Gaston did nothing wrong. Belle is only seen as unconventional to the rest of her townsfolk because she prefers reading and doesn't swoon over the local walking red flag that manipulates his own people with lies and half-truths. She's introverted, but she's not malicious, and the people that she connects to are the ones that show her respect, and she does the same in kind. Case in point, the bookshop owner, her father, and the people in the Beast's residence. When you really look at it, Beauty and the Beast is technically a cautionary tale about how society rewards bullies for targeting those who don't fit into societal expectations, and yet she still remains true on herself despite what people around her think. For all the claims that Beauty and the Beast is just Stockholm Syndrome, Belle is the one who refuses to deal with the Beast until he actually shows that he's a decent person, and the romance only blossoms from the start of them showing respect to one another while she has to show him as more than a ruthless monster. It's almost like the point was that two people with different backgrounds can come together and appreciate each other without judging based on first impressions. Like, Gaston only liked her for her looks and then locked her father in a cellar to make her a trad wife when she refused. And people think an introvert like her wanted to be with him despite singing Madame Gaston, his little wife. No, sir, not me. Yeah, no, Belle's an introvert that deserves better than the people who think she should have ended up with that loser. Speaking of losers, next, Hinata, childhood trauma and recovery. Hinata's reputation in the Naruto and Boruto fandoms have been mixed given her endearing shrinking personality, and her dynamic with Naruto was also criticized for only being seen as someone who existed just to end up with Naruto, when people's desire for more story content kind of invalidates the truth. Hinata was abused by her harsh father and her family, lost the heiress position to the clan because her kindness was seen as weakness. Neji hated her because his dad had to sacrifice himself after a top cloud ninja tried kidnapping her. Her cousin almost murdered her, and she's lived her whole life suffering from an inferiority complex and shyness. Naruto's drive for respect and acknowledgement was the one thing that kept her going before she became a part of Team Kurenai, and even after that, it's him that gives her the confidence to stand up to Neji. It's her who encourages him to face Neji when he's doubtful, and it's because of him that even off-screen, Hinata continues to try and improve, even risking her life against Pain and Obito for him. That love and that support causing Neji to change his ways ultimately ended up with Hinata slowly getting Hiyashi and Neji to change their opinion. She's still healing and has her doubts, but her and Naruto have pushed each other out of it throughout the war. It's because of her life in Naruto that the two are able to eventually fall in love, and by the time that she's an adult, Hinata is able to mature past the abuse from her clan with the family that she's always wanted. Rene Kudo, Majade, healing and lacking media literacy. Rene Kudo, aka Comrade Majade, is the poster child for an introverted protagonist and love interest that went underappreciated by half the fans who saw her as flat, uninteresting, and the actress being told to act stoic and reserved flat for doing her job. Rene started the series in an unfavorable situation. Her father was branded as a traitor, the culprit started assaulting and harming her allies, and she kept a solid distance between her allies, with at least two of them using her to try and find her father. The person who managed to get into her heart was the one who always wanted to understand and connect with her. He was the one who knew the truth about her father and got her to remember the memories of him in order to help her find her resolve. He supported her when she was getting gaslit by the same people who separated her from her father and encouraged her to stand up against him with her own self-worth. She became a heroine with that fuel, found her own conviction, her own hobbies and interests, stood up to the organization that never cared for her, accepted her feelings for the guy who reached out, and found her fire to save someone else from forging from a similar flame. The graduation ends with both of them somewhat aware of each other's feelings, knowing well that they have each other deep in their hearts, and knowing one day something will blossom. The contrast between when she started and where she ended up was beautiful, and I only wish that more fans could appreciate that. Wait, this is the perfect excuse to talk about Siren, because it's one of the few examples of a romance in Shonen Jump in the early 2000s that was actually handled really, really damn well. Minus the fact that they almost kissed, but did it because that magazine's editors are cowards who don't have the guts to. Anyway. But introverts don't kiss. Yeah, there's an article on Introvert there that talks about being in love with your significant other, but the thought of kissing them makes you have a mini panic attack. And social anxiety is a real thing. It happens. And it's okay to be like that and also still want physical intimacy. And one of the key things that helps a relationship is to communicate. Despite her reputation as the Ice Queen, Sakurama Amamiya was seen as crazy and having mental breakdowns. And the moment our bully hunts her other protagonist and Hyuga comes to her aid, and both of them realize she's still the sweet childhood friends that still care for each other, it makes me put the question, why did I pick Siren for this video? 2 words. Save me. He did. She vanished for days on end, returning bruised and bandaged, keeping an emotionless facade. 2 parents who neglect her and never noticed, has cycle breakdowns, constantly at the forefront of bullies and rumors, and yet he showed up for her anyway. Also, he immediately gets propped for calling out his ex-crush for being a POS that hid and stole her wallet while being super subtle about the fact he found out before rushing into another world to go save her. Their relationship is great because the first volume has them relying on each other and establishing the relationship, and instead of pointless drama, they tackle every obstacle, including helping each other find their self-worth in a world where only a select few bother to understand them. And isn't that what we want in a good relationship? Just talk to them. Taking an interjection, when it comes to introverts, a big problem is that a lot of people just feel like they're foreign creatures that are hard to comprehend. But if you just take the time to approach them without making it a huge thing or inviting a bunch of attention, generally concerned with their well-being, they'll be much more willing to open up to you. Just treat them as a human being with the same amount of respect that you would give to anyone else, and you'll find someone who also values love and care and affection more than if you had just said nothing. Alright, let's talk about men. So why was I planning on talking about men on Women's History Month? Yes, I know this video is coming out in April late ahead of schedule, but how many videos did I make last month? 28. Okay, that's not bad. How many were about women, though, or focused on traditional feminine aspects of fandom? Only 20? Well, given my number of followers, this is payback because y'all let the Bachelor videos and the women using pizzas to fight their abusers flop, and I'm not forgiving any of you for that, so let me bring up my 3 last examples. Dangerous in my heart, the mansplaining backlash over putting in effort. So I haven't watched Dangerous in My Heart, but I do know there was this really dumb controversy because the subtitle had the main character worried he was going to mansplain about fashion, given he was out with his love interest and was thinking what to do. But given he came across as an extremely insecure kid who second guesses everything he does and says, yeah, not wanting to feel like he can express his takes about fashion, that's someone that actually likes Yamada, the fashion girl he's out with, because shock of all shocks, decent men actually try not to be condescending or hope they're not being rude in conversations, because why would you want to piss off someone you have feelings for? The man wants to put in the effort and have a good time without saying anything to put his foot in his mouth, and there shouldn't be backlash over a translation trying to reflect what an introverted guy would rationally think about fashion in those regards. Junta. We call introverts doormats even when they're trying to go. I don't get the hate for Junta Shiraishi from Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible. I have seen some flack targeted towards Shiraishi because people dislike his reserved nature, thinking he doesn't do much for Kubo, claiming he's got no personality, finds the relationship one-sided, or sees that he's too much of a boring doormat, and I do not get where these claims come from. The kid has been so invisible he has to stand up on a desk in order for anyone else other than his not girlfriend to notice, and only their teacher does, and yet it's because of Kubo he's been trying to grow and bond with her in her friend group, since he's genuinely a kind and warm-hearted person at heart. Like, this kid's social ability would be perfect for cheating and shoplifting, but he never chooses the worst case scenario. Plus, saying he does nothing is a lie. When him and Kubo go out to the movies, he protects her in the train, he teleports to her when she gets hit on, helping her when she gets lost in the woods at her most vulnerable. But it's really disappointing when the manga and the anime about Kubo's love for him motivating him to grow and develop, and yet people only see him as a doormat. The story never said that he needed an extrovert, but he can accept himself better with a support system. Whether you consider yourself an introvert or extrovert, he himself is not empty or weak. He earns his connections because of his personality. He helps out people because he wants to. He never uses his abilities for personal gain. And he is also a sign that just because you're an introvert does not mean you are not worthy of love. Now, talking about Eiji on this list might be a sneak because his love interest and the main character can't even speak to people normally and only writes the Senyu poems. Hence why I'm calling this Eiji Senyu Girl and Defying Expectations. But at the same time, you could make the argument Eiji is just as one because when you remember his backstory, the only reason he became a delinquent it was because people were intimidated by his looks and tried to fight him, and he never really had anyone outside of his family who took the time to appreciate his passions. It's only thanks to finding the girl who appreciated his attempts that he found someone to speak similar to him with communication issues, that he not only gave her the courage to speak in her own way, but also helped her back. After all, it's what makes this line super important. I don't care about what others think as long as I can be with you. Ah, crap, I'm gonna cry. No, that's the allergies talking, damn it. So let's talk about the media influence and importance of empathy. The reason why I made this video is because the media, scripted and sociable, has had the potential to empower or further alienate those who feel introverted in nature. Perception is not something one can easily control, and with social norms being placed into question year by year, introverts have had more opportunities to release their inner ambition and feel more comfortable in themselves. So it's even more important to respect and allow television and authors to represent different types of introverts, and through fiction, but also allow ourselves to respect and appreciate people whose quirks, reserved nature, issues, and barriers they solely let down for the people who gave them the empathy and understanding. Because if they can find love on our screens, maybe it can sway others into building a more bridges with the quiet voices without having to force themselves into assertiveness and sociability. Because the quiet voices always resonate the loudest when it comes to love.